Welcome back, fellow adventurers, to the Frog God Games YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ben Barsh, bringing you through all the madness that happens here at Frog God Games. And today, I'm actually going to clock in as Professor Ben, and I'm bringing you through Swords and Wizardry 101 yet again. Now, I know I said in last video that we're going to be covering a gameplay example and high-level adventuring. Well, I lied. We're actually just going to be doing high-level adventuring today. I thought that I would, finish out the whole series and then at the very end do a gameplay example. That only just makes sense in my mind. But if you are unfamiliar with this series, or what I do with this series, is I am teaching you Swords and Wizardry in basically like a podcast format. It is long form content, so it is not like cut and choppy how this is right now. I've literally show you the PDF and we walk through it step by step and learn together. If you are new to this series, just check out the channel playlist. It'll link you to all of the Swords and Wizardry 101 videos so you can start at episode 1. Also, really cool announcement. Frog God Games is releasing a box set of Swords and Wizardry. I know, it's insane, massive. If you haven't heard yet, check out our Facebook for all the information on that. And the Kickstarter is actually live January 28th. That is January 28th. At the time of this video going up, that's tomorrow. That's how days work. Also, it has been requested that I do timestamps so you can just kind of check around to the stuff that you're interested in listening to or watching. So here are the timestamps. I'll give you a second to check those out or figure those out if you want to just skip ahead to certain parts of this video instead of just listening to me ramble on and on about high-level adventuring. I will also be adding some of my own kind of flair stuff to it during it. Of course, I'm going to go over the specific rules of high-level adventuring, that is rules as written, but I love high-level adventuring, so I'll just throw in my own stuff here and there. And that's it from me right here. Guys, if you do enjoy the video at any time, please leave a like. It helps me out a lot. And comment down below what area or what location or what monsters are your favorite for high-level adventuring. The bell's about to ring. Let's take our seats. All right, class is in session. We are going to start the high-level adventuring with the stronghold. So, high-level adventuring has been around for generations of old-school gaming, and it not often comes up. A lot of times what happens in old-school gaming is, we all know, your characters die off because, the game is considered a little bit more of a challenge. The parts of character advancement in the beginning stages are mainly working up. Honestly, we never really think about it when we're adventuring, but ultimately, if you were in your character's shoes, you would ultimately want to retire a little early with a small castle or a fort or in high status or with a lot of money, etc. Whatever your character goals are. This gives us some rules to go by if eventually you want your character to settle down and or just have a base of operations for your adventuring. Which most likely is pretty necessary as you get up in the higher levels. As you get up in the higher levels, you're more become like champions of the realm as opposed to just, disposable adventurers picking up, quests in a tavern. So having a castle, for example, is a great place to host, yourselves, possibly maybe your families, possibly your henchmen or, your hirelings, your followers, whatever you want to call them. So a stronghold is a good place to start. All character classes have some ability at some level to establish some sort of stronghold. Strongholds are generally built on a property of land that the character, comes into possession of, whether that through a quest or whether that through, just literally forcibly taking it. Generally, you want to acquire this land in nice means. Generally, each settlement is going to hold 1d4 times 100 villagers, and the normal fuel tax is 10 gold pieces per villager per year. So it generally isn't cheap to own a stronghold, but it is completely worth it once you get to it because it is awesome. It is very cool to have a stronghold. Sometimes, you can make a trading port out of this, so your income is going to far exceed whatever, taxes you have to pay per citizen. Owning a castle, also, like I said earlier, can be your base of operations and a place to keep your treasure because let's be realistic. If you're going into a dungeon, unless you have a bag of holding, you're not going to get out of that dungeon with all that gold or have a place to put it that you feel comfortable putting it. So having an armed castle is obviously an amazing place to put it. Okay, so if we're looking here, at the Castle of Cardir Pass. This is going to give us a baseline gold amount needed to create said castle. Now, as the referee, you're more than welcome to adjust any of these prices as you see fit. I personally think they're pretty darn spot on. But if you want to shrink the size of the castle, just subtract or divide the gold amounts necessary. You know what I mean? So let's, for example, here, let's talk about the main keep for a second. The main keep is 200 foot by 200 foot. And that costs 50,000 gold pieces. Now, if you just want a smaller castle, maybe like 100 by 100, I would think that's like kind of the smallest you can even go. I don't even know if it's considered like a keep at that point, more just like a fort maybe. You can go for 25,000 gold. So if you're cutting the feet of it in half, cut the gold in half, and so on and so forth. If you're going to do that with the castle walls, with the outposts are probably going to be the same price. The gatehouse, the towers, if you don't have as many towers, obviously that can save some gold as well there. But the defensive elements are pretty important, because if you're going to get raided, by giants or, bandits or a strong faction of evil or chaos, you want to have some pretty good reinforcements. So having, strong walls or, stone walls at that, we don't want wooden walls, because those are just going to get absolutely destroyed by a catapult. So you still want to spend the appropriate amount of money to making this fortified. So that way, you're not going to get invaded immediately when you put this thing up. And it's going to take a while to build. This is going to take a while to build. Maybe you can just do some downtime in the game while it's being built. But your characters really aren't going to have this amount of gold to make this amazing of a castle right away anyway. The fun part about this is you can kind of plant the seed of this early on in the campaign. So, for example, in my last campaign, one of my players, and this was in 5th edition, but it's the same sort of idea, was a dwarf barbarian. And basically, he grew up away from his family. He doesn't really know who his family is. All he's heard growing up is that he does have family, but they died off long ago, so on and so forth. Early on, they actually went to an abandoned keep that was placed in a mountainside. And they ended up clearing it out of a bunch of orcs who had taken it over. They cleared it out as a mission for the town mayor, just because the orcs were hassling, so on and so forth. Well, he found out through investigating and talking to a ghost that was still lingering around the halls that this is indeed his family's castle. So the deed was basically passed on to him. So there you go, free plot of land. You can do something like this if you'd like, or you can give your players no favors whatsoever and make them build up from the ground, literally build it up physically from the ground, hiring out, people to do it for them. It's completely up to you. I kind of like giving them at least a little bit to work with, so that way they're not going to be totally bankrupt. But if you're playing in a high-level, high-gold campaign, I would recommend building up from ground zero, quite literally, so that way, their gold income is taken away a little bit, and they're not just, buying millions of magic items and all that kind of stuff. You do want to have some realism to your game. I know we play fantasy, which is, the escape of realism. But, you still have to think a little logistically, unfortunately, when talking about strongholds. But it is a very fun place to put some stuff. You can have your characters all pitch in on one stronghold, or, you can have a couple, within close proximity of each other, like neighboring castles, neighboring lords, that kind of stuff. So, get a gauge on your party, get a gauge on your adventurers, and just kind of go from there. Don't be like the menacing overlord of it, but, keep it real. Keep it real. So the second part to this is hiring followers. So there are a multitude of followers that you can grab to either follow along with you or just keep in your castle altogether, making money for you. The normal hirelings are assumed to be employed full-time by the player character. They're given a room and board plus wage, and the employer supplies any materials needed. So you can also task these people short term, whether you task an armorer just to armor your keep and then he's gone, or an animal trainer to train your horses and then they're gone, so on and so forth. So you can just contract them out for a month. Not all of them have to be until they die kind of thing. As a general rule, food for a single person in a rural community such as a castle or village is about a gold piece per month, and perhaps twice that in a city.
So basically, you just have to lodge and pay for the upkeep of your followers so they don't die off. That just makes sense, right? Wages are depending on the type of services. So the fun part about this is depending on your world setting as well, these might be more expensive or cheaper. So if you have like if you're in a really rural setting or you're in a city, just any sort of setting that has a lot of animals, for whatever reason, I don't know what reason it would be or whatever. You have a lot of people who are interested in animal training. Maybe instead of having it be 500 gold a month to upkeep or 20 gold a month for a wage, you can just simply reduce that, because supply and demand. Keep supply and demand in mind when you're doing all this kind of stuff. So these are kind of people who are going to be outfitting and hanging out at your castle just to make sure everything that is running the way it needs to. An alchemist, is making potions for you and your party. When you come back, you get a supply of potions of healing or heroism or whatever you need. Your animal trainers are going to, go anywhere from, handling the horses to maybe just like quite literally training dogs for the townsfolk to have as pets. The armorer is going to obviously keep you armored. Assassins are a case-by-case basis, so they are mission basis only. If you want to hire an assassin to go take someone out, that is 2,000 gold per mission. Not permission, as in like permission to execute. 2,000 gold per each mission they go on. Not a lot of people I meet really use that, but it's there for you if you want it. If you want to be, putting hits out on people. Blacksmith is what it is. Men at arms. There's going to be a lot of these because you want to make sure you have soldiers defending your castle. Now this is man at arms for defending, a camp or castle, and then there is man at arms for adventuring. People who are going to go out and physically adventure with you. A sage, teaching everyone the tradition or keeping knowledge of the of whatever encampment you have. Sailors and ship captains, these are going to only be necessary if you put your castle on like a body of water, or you want to, maybe have some more, you want to put yourself on a port or near a port so that way you can do trade. Sailors and ship captains will be pretty necessary for that. Plus, on top of that, you're going to want to buy a ship. So it's going to be expensive for that, but it might be very worth it if you're able to do all of your trading yourself. Servants, there's going to be plenty of those, multitude of them. Some of them you can bring some of them on the missions if you want, and some of them you can keep in your castle. Going down to siege or construction engineer. This is going to be pretty important because you want to make sure that your siege defense is strong. This might be one of the things that's a contract on per basis. If you're in a pretty peaceful area, you can just set up the siege or construction, and then, you don't really need someone on hand at all times for that if you live in a fairly peaceful area. So maybe you can cut that one off. A spy as well might just be needed in wartime, and the torchbearer will be used to literally just bear the torch in adventuring. They're non-combatant really in adventuring. They're pretty much just there to illuminate everything for you, which is kind of fun to use. You can maybe even like combine a torchbearer with a servant if you want, or something like that. It's possible for people to have a multitude of jobs. So maybe like a man at arms is a blacksmith as well, or a siege construction engineer also can kind of like maybe double as like an alchemist, because not only do they know how to construct these beautiful walls or these beautiful towers to keep yourself defended, they also know what chemicals or what bombs that are needed to be used to break them down. So if you want to combine people's jobs, you're more than welcome to try that out as long as it makes sense. That'd be totally cool. This sets up some high level adventuring as far as like invasions go. Once your characters are finally feeling comfortable in their own walls, basically, you can have them be invaded by some sort of foreign invader. And that this all ties into your stronghold. So the majority of high level adventuring here is pertaining to your stronghold or in your followers that are in the stronghold. this is an expensive endeavor. Yes, it is. So you want to make sure that this is kind of like near the end of their careers, or just whenever they have money. They might hit the lottery and find an awesome dungeon with 100,000 gold in it at like level 4, and then at level 8, by the time they're like level 6 or 7 or 8, they can basically construct themselves a stronghold. Other fun high-level adventuring can include, just going after the biggest of bads. So, going after, ancient dragons, or going after liches, or going after very powerful undeads, or maybe heading into the 9 hells or the abyss to fight some demon lords or archdevils. High-level adventuring is completely open to the imagination. There really is no limitations to high-level adventuring. Because the characters are stronger at this point. They're able to handle more. And once you get to that point, it gets really exciting and really fun because you go on some very, very unique adventures that you don't have very often. So this is why I also see a lot of people starting at higher, level 3 or level 5 or something, because they're just ready to hop into that very unique adventure where, literally anything can come, and you're not just, defending against your run-of-the-mill bandits or kobolds, or exploring, this cave that's, had rumors or whatever, anything like that. So that's going to pretty much wrap up high-level adventuring. I know this one is a little shorter than usual. There's just not as much to cover in this episode. And in the next episodes coming, we are going to dive into magic. So everything, I'm not going to read off each spell, but I'm going to kind of give you the gist of magic users, clerics, druids, so on and so forth with their spells. And that'll probably be one entire video in and of itself. And then there we'll just go on to the rest of Swords and Wizardry 101 and go over dungeons and being the referee. And, we've done a lot of player side of things. And then from there, we're probably going to jump into more referee stuff like monsters, designing encounters, all that kind of stuff, treasure, how to allot treasure and hand it out, how it all works. There's still a lot to cover in Swords and Wizardry. We're probably about halfway through, I think, right now, roughly. Yeah, I mean, if you count all the spell pages. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Again, if you're watching this or listening to this on Monday, January 27th, 2020, on the 28th, January 28th, the Swords and Wizardry box set is going to be live on Kickstarter. I cannot recommend this enough. You guys are going to love it. I'm going to have full videos on that, an interview with Matt Finch on that, and then I'm sure more supplementary videos because it's just such an iconic moment here at Frog God Games. So thank you guys for watching. Like if you enjoyed, comment down below your favorite things to do once you're high-level adventuring, and subscribe for more content because I'm going to be doing this all the time. 2020 is going to be a great year, and I'm very excited for it. All right. That's it from me. Take it easy and keep going on adventures worth winning.